Hello and welcome, this is TheCursedMonk, and today I'm going to be bringing you a basic tutorial for Magic the Gathering 2013. So the point of this tutorial is to lay down the basic concepts of the Magic the Gathering card game, with more advanced concepts being explained in future videos. So let's get started. So the main objective in Magic the Gathering is to reduce the enemy hero's health to 0. You can also reduce the enemy's library or deck of cards to 0. If the enemy hero is unable to draw a card, he forfeits the match. So you start the game with 7 randomly drawn cards from your own library, so we're going to go right ahead and accept these cards. Now my opponent is going to start by playing his first land card, a blue mana island, and playing a spell. Now spells are temporary cards with various effects. This specific card has allowed my enemy to pull another card from his deck, giving him an early advantage by giving him access to more cards. So we're going to go right ahead and play our first land card of our own. In this case we're using the mountains or red mana. This allows us to pay for any card costing 1 mana. So as you can see right here, the cost of this goblin is only 1, and we're going to play him. Now this goblin has a special ability, as you can see here on the left hand side of the card. This gives the goblin an ability known as Haste, as seen in the description box. So Haste allows this goblin to attack on the same turn that he is summoned. Now this is very unusual for cards, since normally when a card is summoned from your hand onto the field, it suffers from something known as summoning sickness. So we should say this with Talrand's cards, which means that the card is unable to attack in the same phase that it is summoned. However, it is still able to defend, making it useful. So you can see here the spirals around this card showing that it is suffering from summoning sickness. This means this card is unable to attack, however it can still defend. Although this card can be described as a 0/4. Now this means that the card has 0 attack strength, so it does no damage. However, it does have 4 life points, so this makes this a pretty robust and durable card to play for such a cheap mana cost of only 1 blue mana. Now, life in this game works somewhat different to other games, being reset every round. So I'll show you an example of this by attacking with my 1/1 goblin. So click attack, aiming at the enemy hero. However, I am going to be blocked by this very strong card. Now, it can't do any damage to me, since it does not have any attack strength. However, I am able to do 1 damage to it, taking its health from 4 down to 3. This doesn't mean that the card is damaged, and this damage is not permanent. So we swap back over to Talrand, and you can see this card has healed back up to its initial value of 4. So Talrand is going to skip his combat phase. There's not much point in attacking with a 0 damage card. And he is going to summon a special type of card known as an artifact. Now, an artifact is a piece of equipment such as swords, armour, and in this case a ring. Now, all of these give various bonuses to the cards. In this case, the ring will make that card stronger and stronger, giving it an extra attack and an extra life point every turn that it's wearing that ring. So we're going to go right ahead and play a different type of card. Now this is known as an instant card or a spell. Now a spell is a one-off use card, normally with pretty powerful effects to make up for how temporary it is. So we're going to look at the description box, and this is explained as destroying a target artifact. So we're going to go right ahead and play this for 1 mana. Then we're going to aim it at that ring that we just saw before the enemy creature can gain any of that power from it. So these cards have now been moved to our graveyard. Graveyard is where cards such as depleted spells or dead creatures go after they have been used. These cards are generally out of play, however some decks, such as the black mana decks, do revolve around bringing these cards back into play or becoming stronger the more cards are left in the graveyard. So we can attack again with this goblin, however there isn't much point since this 0/4 will simply block us again. So we are going to stay in the defense and not become tapped. As you saw last time, my card turned sideways, meaning it was unable to block during Talrand's attack phase. It's not likely that he is going to attack with that 0/4, but it's better to leave a card in defense anyway. So we are going to go right ahead and play our card, which is an instant, during the enemy turn. Now an instant is one of two types of magic cards. The other is known as a sorcery. Now these are two different types of spells. A sorcery can only be played during your turn. However, an instant can be played any time in the game. So I'm going to go right ahead and play my turn during Talrand's turn. This allows us to destroy that second ring, further weakening Talrand's play. Now once again we're going to open by playing our land card, giving us some more options, and we are going to play our legendary creature card. Now a legendary creature is a special type of creature which is normally very powerful or has a very powerful ability. It normally has a pretty high mana cost to pay for it. However, more often than not very useful to play on the field. They do have a special rule that only one of each type may be played. Therefore, if the enemy was also playing as the red goblin deck, he would be unable to play his legendary card, since this would cause both of them to be destroyed. That could be advantageous depending on the situation. Now as you can see here, this card does not have the haste icon as shown here, meaning it is suffering from summoning sickness. So this is pretty unfortunate, as I can't attack with this pretty reasonably powerful 3/3, which would be useful. However, we're going to have to again skip this attack, as I would be blocked by that pretty sturdy 0/4 standing in my way. So Talrand opening up with a spell card of his own. Now this is a pretty annoying spell that the blue decks like to play, known as Disperse or Repulse. These cards return any creature card back to the owner's hand. So this is going to pull my creature card back to me, but not return the mana that I paid for it. So this is pretty annoying, since you're just about to see I have to pay the full cost again for it, essentially losing this turn, and he's got summoning sickness again. So that was a pretty effective attack by Talrand. Because of this summoning sickness, I'm also unable to play what's known as my active abilities. These active abilities are described in the description box here. So you can see Krenko's special ability is to summon more goblins. Very useful ability in my opinion. So we are going to have to skip this attack yet again, in hopes that we can use his special ability next turn, hopefully to turn the tide in our favour. Talrand choosing to summon no extra defensive units to help him, which makes us question what the two cards in his hand are. They could be more spell cards, or they could be cards to help him pick others out. Sorcery cards in Talrand's decks mainly focus around getting cards back from his deck or choosing new cards, both of which can be pretty annoying, since the computer generally likes to pick the card that is incredibly useful for that situation. So we're going to go right ahead and play the Goblin Warchief, which is very useful, and you're going to see why. So most cards have a description underneath them. In this case, this is a creature card. As we've explained, this is a permanent card that can be used for attack and defense. As well as this, its type is explained next to it, so this is a goblin. Now, as we've mentioned earlier, our goblins can be multiplied using the special ability of my legendary creature. So we are going to go right ahead and yeah, we'll attack this turn. So this is an attack based on numbers. Now you can only block one creature with each card. So this 0-4 is going to have to choose between my 1-1 and my 2-2. Now he's chosen to block the higher damage of 2, letting a single damage through to Talrand the hero. So we are going to go right ahead and play our active ability. So now you get to see how this works. This taps the card, meaning it was unable to attack last turn, that is why I kept it back. And instant cards, which is pretty good for turning the tide. These also count as goblin cards, meaning I can multiply them next turn, which I think you're going to see me do. So I do have this card I can play, which does not count as a goblin. This is a giant and a warrior, so this will not help me multiply my cards, but it's always useful to have an extra 3/3 on the field. So we're going to play this card. Now this time we're going to also multiply again, and this is going to multiply these 3 cards. Now you might notice that these cards look pretty different to the other cards I've been playing. These are known as tokens. Now tokens are permanent cards, similar to these cards that I played from my hand for mana. However, if these get repulsed, as seen here by this disperse card, these will not return to my hand, nor when they die they will not return to my graveyard. So you have to be pretty careful with token cards. Although they're expendable, generally they're pretty hard to get back. So we're going to go right ahead and enter the combat phase, and we are going to attack with all of these delicious tokens. So we're going to highlight the top row and tell them to attack, that's 6 goblins, and we're going to highlight the bottom row and tell them to attack. So as you may notice, that's a lot more cards than the 1 card Talrand has. So we're going to go right ahead and let that through. So Talrand is most likely going to block this 2-2 to prevent 2 damage. That is the most effective block. We do a large amount of damage with all these token cards. So Talrand's going to have to, well, pick up his game a bit, or summon something actually useful to help. As you can see, active abilities from legendary cards, very useful to play. So we're going to go right ahead and play this card, which has a special ability, one of my favourites, known as Battle Cry. Now Battle Cry you're about to see in a few seconds, so we're going to go right ahead and send him in. Send in our token army. Pretty impressive. And we are going to click the attack, and you're going to see Battle Cry. Battle Cry has increased the attack of every card attacking by 1. That doesn't sound like much, but when you've got 9 token goblins attacking, it stacks up pretty fast. A very useful ability, I'm sure you'll agree, and there's not much Talrand can do about that. That's pretty punishing assault. And crunch. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I hope that helped you with the basics. We will explain more advanced concepts in future games. And I have been your host, The Cursed Monk. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope to see you again soon.